Alright, we're just going to be testing the new dungeon. This is a voiceover, but I thought I'd give my feedback on it. And so we're going to start with what I liked about this new update. By far, I think this update has the best item balance out of all of them. We got some new strong gear. They're all unique, but they're not broken like the Dutchman hats. So for the weapons, we have some pretty cool stuff. We got two new abilities, Plague and Cloak and Dagger. Plague is a ranged X-shaped poison. It's pretty good, but what makes it so good is that it's on some really nice weapons. We have a new best wand in the game for witches, period. We have a 6-ranged wand that is actually like good with Plague, and yeah. Ranged hybrid players are also enjoying this update. There's a new best hybrid weapon for them, and a 5-range shooty staffy with Plague as well. So those are some really nice new items for range classes that they got. And then also for melee, we got Cloak and Dagger. Cloak and Dagger is basically backstab, and then after it does damage, you go into hide for 5 turns like Walk in Darkness. It is really, really good, not only in PvE, but also in PvP. In PvE, we're kind of reaching a point of, which I'll touch later, where it is heavy offense. So, not only do you have heavy offense, but the enemy has heavy offense, making, damage reductions more or less pointless, because they'll just kill you through it anyways. So having a hide that, helps you prevent it, while still keeping, offensive momentum is really, really good. In PvP, it's the same story. Offensive momentum that hides you for 5 turns. It is just a super nice power on some nice weapons that have nice stats. These weapons are just generally very good. We got 3 new armor sets. They're all unique, but I wouldn't say they're as good as weapons. We have a universal Trying Songs boot. So all classes can now get Trying Songs, so that's pretty solid. We have we have Bladestorm boots. So every class can now get Bladestorm 2 from not only the boots, but also the pets. And also Buccaneers can now give up Craven Blade and draw something else for Bladestorm 5. And so yeah, just some nice stuff. Oh, we also have a universal fort hat. It's not as strong as some of the other universal gear we've been getting. This is because for every class except Musketeer, they all have fort options on the hat. But Musketeer gets a nice buff with having a fort option on the hat. So, moving on, we had some other stuff I liked. I like some of the enemy design. My favorite enemy out of this new update is the Swashbuckler Golems. They have their own fair share of problems that we'll get to later as well. But I do like the idea of it. They're kamikaze golems. They go in, they blow up because they have low health, and they do damage. Simple enough. And so, now we're going to move into some nitpicks. I don't like how enemy layout is. Right now in Test Realm, this is in Test Realm, the enemies just kind of walk around willy-nilly, not in a clean path. And then also, there will be enemies that we don't need to kill to progress, but are still in there. And so what will end up happening is not only in this dungeon, but also just all of the new sewers. We'll just be getting into fights, or not even fights. We can't even get into the fights we want because the enemy that we need to kill is not showing up. And so, some other nitpicks is that there's the rooms are all the same. Even though we have a arrow, they are all the same, and it's super hard to tell where am I. And so without that arrow, before this recent patch for it to give some arrows for the dungeon, I literally had to walk around the whole room trying to figure out which door was which. But that's somewhat fixed. But yeah, that's kind of my complaint. It probably should need some big neon signs or something like that, so I can help tell which door I need to go to. And now we're going to move on to probably the biggest problem with this update. The enemies have bloated stats. Heavily bloated stats. Though, They do have a lot less epics, so I'm glad they listened to not having as bloated epics, but the stats are a big problem. So there's two bosses in this dungeon. Blue Herring Mastermind and Brand. A machine that, spoilers, you'll see it, but I'm not gonna say it out loud. And so these guys have really bloated stats, as I've said. Oh, we also have the swashbuckler golems that I mentioned earlier, the kamikaze kazi golems. They also have bloated stats, and so I'll show them later as well. And so the problem with them is that they hit way too hard, and they also get stuff like Elusive 3, Turn the Tide 3, alongside their already bloated stats. And so what ends up happening is that since they have bloated stats, they get under 50% health, they're going to get percentage of those already bloated stats. And it is a nightmare. They hit way too hard, they dodge way too often, and yeah, it is just not fun. And so like, Blue Herring Mastermind, I literally reduced for 50% weapon power, and he was still hitting for 700 AoEs. He was still chaining like he was hitting for a normal attack for like 350. It too much bloated stats. And so, as you'll see here, I've literally wiped it out to this Blue Herring boss before, and that's granted. That is because I forgot to change my gear and stuff like that. But it's still not great getting wiped. Like, I would never want to touch this dungeon outside of free Miracle Mitch. But that's a whole another problem with gold and Miracle Mitch, so we're just gonna ignore that. So yeah, stats too bloated. It's moving on to the swashbuckler golems. They are also too strong. I sacrificed a ninja pig to prove this point. They got repost chained for like 800 to hit. Like, that really shouldn't be happening, especially when there's gonna be like 4 of them. And so they got chained down, they just instantly died, and like, once they reached elusive, even my musketeers were not able to hit them. Like, my pirate had quick adjust, Chantel had quick adjust, and they were hitting like multiple times. Black Annie had quick adjust hitting multiple times, and they were just not hitting their stuff. And so, next up is Bran. Bran also has heavily bloated stats. You'll see later on that I literally wiped this dude because he kept on hitting me for like 700, 1,000 ricochets. And now granted, my characters kept on chaining for whatever reason, but I kept on getting hurt so bad that literally Chantel hit Rook once and my whole party wiped. Like, that's a problem. Like, that is a big problem. Now, I understand that, like, other classes, especially Swashbuckler and Buccaneer, have had a hard time in this new updates, and now it's, Musketeer's fair turn because they've been so dominant in PvE. But this isn't acceptable. Like, no class should suffer so hard where one stroke of bad luck completely wipes an otherwise fine battle. I cannot understate how big of a problem that is, of how much bloated stats are. And so that's kind of it. I'm gonna show the rest of the gameplay, but yeah, you get the idea. The stats need a nerf. The enemies themselves and their powers were fine. Like, a lot of the melee characters got like Frenzy, Tide, like if they were frozen with Tide. They had like Forts, Walk in Darkness. Those aren't too big of problems. And so, but really, the bloated stats are really bad. And like, all the enemies could use like a 25% flat nerf. Not flat nerf. 25% nerf across the board to weapon power, accuracy, dodge. Their HP is fine, so we can leave that alone, but their core stats just need to be reduced by a lot.